In previous episodes in this series, we delved into the importance of envisioning the outcome we desire and setting clear plans with actionable steps. I've been spending a lot of time on this topic lately, particularly as I prepare to do a free live launch crash course on how to go from zero to clear on your goals, which is an extension of my one-on-one coaching. And I'll be sharing more about this free workshop that's coming later in May. So as I've framed out this one-day course, I've narrowed in on two overlooked yet important steps that we must take to align our plans for personal success. And I don't want to wait until this free workshop. I kind of want to talk about this over the next 2 weeks. So these two are, number one, identify what's holding you back from starting in the first place. And number two, identify what behaviors are holding you back from being successful. Over the next 2 episodes, we're going to take a closer look at these focus points. Today, I'll walk you through the first critical step. What's holding you back from starting? I've been stuck at this crossroad of uncertainty before, and I know how paralyzing it feels to be frozen in place like this. I cannot wait to share some strategies for navigating this frustration landscape and moving forward to achieve your goals. In today's episode, you'll learn how to identify the things holding you back from starting. You'll hear about my own trials and triumphs in this area, and you'll gain some simple strategies to push through these roadblocks holding you back. Do you crave better self-esteem and confidence but feel stuck in a fog of uncertainty? If you're ready to gain clarity on your goals and cut yourself free from the fear, self-doubt, and worry holding you back, this show is for you. I'm Jennifer DeBellis, award-winning author, speaker, and clarity coach. I help women like you restore their inner worlds and get clear on their goals to confidently fulfill their greatest desires. Ready to restore your inner warrior? Then turn off those distractions and tune in to this next episode. Hey girl, are you tired of living in a fog of uncertainty when it comes to fully imagining and achieving your goals? Let me show you how to chart out your goals with a customized map that pinpoints exactly where to start and which direction to go first. My Zero to Clear Clarity Coaching simplifies this process and helps you tap into resources already within reach. Zero to Clear will help you fully imagine your goals, map out actionable steps to take, and show you how to finally begin that journey toward finding personal success. You don't need to keep throwing away money and precious time or feeling defeated by uncertainty, worry, and stress. Just like that personal success you crave, clearly seeing, setting, and working toward those goals should feel good and fulfilling, and you will be able to see and feel progress along the way with my coaching. Book a Zero to Clear coaching call and let me show you how easy it is to begin living your best life today. Use the link below or find one at restoreyourInnerWarrior.org/0-2-clear-coaching. In these next 2 episodes, we're going to talk about obstacles and hindrances. In all your goal-setting experiences, how much time have you actually invested in identifying the things holding you back from getting started or from even taking the next step or the next step? I know a lot of different self-help options out there or different coaching platforms or different models for setting goals look at a lot of particular things, but very few of them look at what are the things that are keeping you from starting in the first place. What are the things getting in your way or hindering your progress? And this also includes our behaviors, the topic I'm going to talk about next week. But perhaps this is the first time you've heard this step even mentioned. I know a lot of my coaching clients and students admit that this is something that they don't even think about. So it's kind of like this epiphany moment when I share with them, like, hey, let's look at the things that are stopping you from starting or getting in your way. And we're so focused on what we want to accomplish that we often look right past the obstacles that are literally right in front of our face. So that's an interesting thing that I've been really meditating on over the last week. Even some of the things that I'm also trying to accomplish is that, that saying that it blends into the woodwork. And that is essentially saying, like, it's there and you see it so many times, you stop seeing it. It just blends into the landscape. It blends into the environment and the space. And so I feel like sometimes the things that are holding us back, and these could also be feelings and emotions, they don't have to be physical things that are in our way. They can be a lot of different things. But we can be so focused on breaking down the steps and the plans and getting the resources and all the strategies in place that we're missing something that is keeping us from being able to take those steps to begin with, or is making it really difficult to work around it when we need to deal with it. We need to deal with it and look at it for exactly what it is. So last week, I created a graphic to illustrate this concept of how we tend to envision how life is going to play out for us. And there's a lot of really like fantasy elements and, like just birds chirping and the sun is out and the trees are blooming and, all these things that we are like, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be epic. And then there's the reality of all of the obstacles and the really difficult terrain and challenges that life throws at us. And, these two landscapes are radically different. So if you're watching the video, you'll be able to catch the visual of this playing on the screen. And I'll also put a link to this short little GIF in the show notes below so that you can also check it out. But it was when I learned to ask myself, what is holding me back? That's when things began to radically shift. And they did it very quickly as I was trying to set specific plans to achieve goals and experience personal success. When I started this podcast is a perfect example about how just by asking this one question really opened my thinking up and then opened up the actions that I took to quickly shift things. And I want to preface here that my mind and spirit were already in unity on this goal and my quest to build the Restore Your Inner Warrior community outlets. So I had already been in, very deep meditation and prayer, and I had already spent a lot of time getting wise counsel from people that I trusted and from other support networks. And I was like, okay, I already know that this is something that I'm going to do. I was already working on the trademark and I already had a lot of things in place. But then I was like, okay, how do I bring all these things kind of under one umbrella and just start doing some things that when I step into this, some of these other kind of purpose driven things will become clear to me. But it's like I needed to do some things before these other things would open up for me. And I was kind of stuck at this crossroad and I was completely frozen because it was like, okay, I know that I'm supposed to be here. So you're in the right landscape. You come to a place, there's a four-way stop, you're in the right landscape and you're like, oh my God, do I turn left? Do I go straight? Do I go right? And, life doesn't come with such clear directions that we know exactly where we're supposed to be at that point. So I started to ask myself, like, what is holding me back from moving forward here? That's going to help me decide which way I'm supposed to go here. And I knew that that was literally blocking my ability to see what I was supposed to do next. And what I noticed when I started to think about that was the very obstacle in my way was not knowing which way to go next. So I'm at this crossroad and I'm literally like, what's keeping me from starting is not really knowing what to do with this thing that I want to do something with. And so I knew I wanted to continue teaching, but in a different capacity. I knew that I wanted to keep speaking again in a different capacity. And I knew I wanted all of these things to be a part of the Restore Your Inner Warrior kind of network of things. And so then I was like, you know what? I just need to start looking into this. So the obstacle in my case was I didn't know which direction to go in. And I also didn't know where to start with the things that I already knew that I wanted to try to begin building. I was like, okay, you're at this crossroad. You know you want to start a podcast. You know this is one of the foundational building blocks for what you're trying to do here. And you need to just finally start it. And you need some support and some resources. So the very first thing that I did is I found a free workshop and a podcast that was dedicated to doing both of these things. So me trying to start the podcast and me trying to build in this speaking and teaching and expand my coaching, I found one place that had these resources for me to start answering some questions. What was keeping me from starting was I didn't have the right knowledge to know what to do first, where to start, doing this podcast thing, and where to start thinking about, building these other components that stem off of it. And I utilized every free resource that this outlet had. And then as I worked through some of these things, and I was like eating it up. So you have to also be hungry. You have to want to gain this knowledge. And when you have opportunities where the knowledge already exists and someone's allowing you to tap into it, you have to seize that opportunity and you have to tap into it. And then as you do that, like in my experience, things started to become really clear to me. And so as I got a much better vision, now I was like, okay, I was able to take different steps and put some things into place. But then I also hit a huge roadblock again. And I wanted to take things to the next level with the help of this particular outreach. And I ran into a financial restraint. And sometimes that happens also, where it's like we want to do something to fulfill our creative, professional, or educational goals. And these things cost money and also the resources involved. And then you're like, okay, got this financial thing. And years ago, back when I was in my early 20s, my husband and I, we got really good at strategizing when we wanted to buy something. We were kind of like on it. If you have the cash, you buy it. We didn't charge and finance a whole bunch of stuff, including cars. We rarely financed a car. We would save up and we would figure out ways. We would take on second and third jobs. We did a lot of things together. And so we kind of had a couple of, and I'm going to share these with you, strategies for coming up with financial deficits for things that we wanted to do. It didn't matter if it was a professional thing or if it was our wedding or if it was we want to take this cruise or this vacation, we want to go and do a particular activity, we want to join this particular sport. We would have these particular strategies. And these are our go-to strategies. So I'm going to share them with you. But again, you have to come up with your own go-to strategies as well. And it can't always just be swiping the card, although sometimes that is a necessity. That could get you in trouble in the long run because you're really not being a good steward of your finances and figuring out, can I justify this? We cannot justify every single expense, even the ones that we're trying to use to build something. And so in this case, I was like, okay, you do the save up method, which is I want to do this thing. I haven't till like 3 months from now or 6 months from now. How much do I have to save? Can I make payments on it? That's one type of a method that we used. And then we have the liquidate method, which is there something I could sell? Are there things that I can get rid of that I already own that I'm not using or that I want to upgrade eventually? So you can kind of flip some stuff, and that's been something that's been very helpful for us. Sometimes we'll use both of those methods. And then something as I started getting into the community sector and the church sector was I learned a lot about fundraising. And don't discredit it. Like you could do all kind of stuff. Like when I was in my coaching years, I did a lot of car washes and I've done a lot of events like a poker tournament or euchre tournament or even a casino night and things like that people would love to come out and support you, even if you say like, you don't have to have like, I need a new kidney or someone's going through cancer treatment or someone's house just burned down. We're all trying to raise money. And those are really good outreaches, but you could have an outreach that, like in my case, I'm trying to do something. So I'm thinking like, okay, I could run a fundraiser for this and raise the funds maybe in 1, 2, or 3 events that I need in order to do this particular program. And I don't want to discredit the one that I'm actually going to expand on here, which is pray for the provision. So I do this thing where I pray to God, and I have a very particular thing where I'm like, okay, God, you know my need. And you know that I need these funds to come from an outside source, from a supernatural source. So there's all these different ways of coming up with the financial provision. And again, sometimes it's a combination of these things. And these were all running through my head. And I was really starting to think about like, okay, I could be proactive about this. And then I got sick. And I mean, really, really sick. Like I almost died kind of sick. And so in the interim of all this happening, I am like, okay, I need to do this thing. I've already taken all these steps. I've got a couple things in motion and I want to stay committed to this. I don't want this. What if this this is a physical attack, me being sick. And I felt like almost like that was a driving force also playing in the background. Like clearly the enemy does not want me to do this and be successful. And so it kind of drove me to push harder and harder, like this is an attack on this amazing thing that I'm trying to start. And I just was like trying to push through that. And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, as I was reflecting on, there's only a small window of time where I can still buy into this program that I want to help me get the startup going. And I'm getting sick and I'm getting sicker. And so I'm literally like, I don't know how much I can take on any extra work to save up for this. I don't even have like the mental capacity to try to start figuring out what big ticket items I can liquidate at the time. And so I was like, oh my gosh, running a fundraiser or some type of event, that wasn't going to happen because I just literally, I was on the couch. Like I was on the couch, I had breathing issues. I got to a point where I couldn't eat. I was like, I am in no shape for all these things. And I'm also kind of in survival mode for my physical health. So a lot of my prayers were geared toward like my healing, my physical healing. And so I kind of wasn't really thinking about that until I was. And I got to a point where, okay, I know I don't have this timeline. I'm sitting on the couch. There was like a 3-week period where I was sitting on the couch where I was getting critically ill. And the doctors didn't know what to do with me. And they kept making my conditions worse and sending me home. And so I'm sitting on the couch in this vicious cycle and I'm praying for my physical health. And then I just start praying to God for, you need to help me with the provision, a supernatural provision to help me get this podcast thing going and to get this Restore Your Inner Warrior thing finally up and running. And that one obstacle that was left was the finances. And so I was like, I have put all of this time and attention and into like figuring out and planning out all these different steps. And now I'm at this is the thing that's keeping me from starting. And I need this help and I need these finances. So I start praying about it, and this like really supernatural thing happens where the money, and I'm praying very specific, like, Lord, you know our finances are tight right now. I need this to be outside of our normal income streams. I don't want to impact my household's income streams in order to do this very expensive thing. And so I'm praying about it. And again, this is over the course of a few weeks, and all of a sudden I have this opportunity where I'm not even going to share the whole details because it doesn't matter, is that God made a way for that money to come into our lives outside of our normal income streams. And it was a super amazing thing. And I knew it was from God because it was the exact amount of money that I needed for this program. And so there are no coincidences. And that was just an incredible experience to see that kind of come through. So when I was thinking about which story to share today, I don't want to scare you away with my supernatural kind of like pray it into existence stuff, but there is a lot of power in all of these things. And sometimes it is just God who provides the way. There is no other way. And I've learned that in so many experiences in my lifetime that I never discredit it. Sometimes it's the last thing that I go to, which is kind of foolish, but in this case, prayer is the thing that opened the way. And it had done that so many times in the experience leading up to this moment also, where it was like, okay, I had prayed, like, guide me to this, let this particular door open, all these different things. But I mean, this was incredible. And I had already had a whole bunch of things charted out, and then stepping into this and having the right resources, it was like everything started to come together and all the pieces were starting to come together. And so I'm still almost a year later, still building some things and putting some things together and still finishing up my time with this program. But it has been, this really incredible thing to think about. Like, it's an infrastructure of all of my short and long-term goals in this particular Restore Your Inner Warrior network. And all of these different resources and different steps that exist are all important components to achieving the goals and ultimately to experiencing that personal success that I'm after. And so now it's your turn. I'm going to turn this around. I want you to consider a goal you want to accomplish, but have been putting off. Answer the question, what's holding you back from starting? Then I want you to list these answers and also identify those obstacles. And it doesn't matter what they are. It could be multiple. It could be just one big thing. It could be a literal thing in your physical world. It could be emotional things, mental things. It could be spiritual things. It doesn't matter. This is your answers. So you have to write down what applies for you. So write all of these things down. And if you struggle to write things down and this whole concept's new to you, and you're like, oh my gosh, if you can do it in 2 seconds, you probably didn't do the exercise justice. Set your timer on your phone for 5 minutes. You can do something for 5 minutes, especially when it's selfishly about you and what you're trying to accomplish. Give yourself a few minutes. List out, and when you think about, like, is that everything? Give yourself time to process it and really dig deep into your own thinking to answer, what are these obstacles? Maybe have columns. What are my spiritual? What are my emotional and mental? And what are my literal in the physical world obstacles? So then I want you to run all these through what I call the truth test. This will help you narrow down to 1 or 2 that are really keeping you from starting. But I want you to just try to narrow down to just like 1 or 2, just a couple that are keeping you from starting. Because you could keep doing this exercise over and over and over. Like if you just want to find the biggest ones or the most important ones, then you start with those. And then once you finish this process, then you can go back and you can keep doing that over and over and over again. But I just want you to just focus on, don't get lost in trying to solve all of your world problems in one sitting. But once you have those 1 or 2, I want you to brainstorm, what can you do to get started in the light of these things? And write this down. What can you do to get started in the light of these obstacles? Are there resources or support that you need to get started? What are these that you think? You might not have all those answers. You might need to look a few things up, and that's okay. I don't want you to use a search engine to answer some of these questions that only you can answer. This is not something where you can plug it into AI and AI will tell it for you. This is a heart matter. You really need to spend the time with it and wrestle through this. But you can look some things up, like what are some resources and support that you might need. That's exactly how I found the coaching program that I ended up going with to get my podcast started. So you might need to look a couple of things up once you get to this point. And then how can you access these? So you have to start thinking about, are there things that you can access for free? Are there resources that you already have in your life? Are there people that you can already lean into? You have to go through the thinking process here and again, write those things down. And then once you get through all these steps, I want you to start marking a first actionable step that you can take to get started or to remove an obstacle so you can. Now you can look at everything you've just worked through and say, okay, right here, you should be able to point to it on the page, right here, I'm going to mark this and then I'm going to specify, and it's so powerful to write things down. I'm going to specify what first actionable step I can take to either get started or to remove an obstacle out of my way so that I can. And you can even write this in your calendar, or if you use a digital version, put it in your calendar so that you see it. It's on your to-do list. It's an actionable step that you add to your to-do list. I cannot tell you how helpful that is as well, especially if you get distracted and you forget, like, oh yeah, I'm trying to work on this thing here. I know sometimes life can get really busy. In my own experiences that I shared here, beyond figuring out this financial element, I was then tasked with removing some things and behaviors from my life that were distracting me from fulfilling the steps to achieve my podcast and the Restore Your Inner Warrior brand goals. I not only needed more time, I needed finer focus and to lock in. So there were some things that I needed to do in order to be successful. And we're going to talk about that next episode. So perhaps as we go through the week, and I don't want you to lose your focus on the homework I just gave you, but you could also be thinking about, are there possibly some things, some behaviors, activities that I may need to either pause, radically cut back on, or completely eliminate. Okay, until then, you've got your work cut out for you. Well, girl, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, follow my channel and share it with friends who also want to restore their self-worth and confidence. And if you're ready to get clarity and big picture vision on your goals, consider booking a one-on-one coaching session with me. Find a link in the show notes below to book a session. And as you go through your week, may your empowered spirit, heart, and mind guide you. Catch new episodes every Saturday. Ciao.